This video is the second edition of a series where I try to beat Celeste in as few dashes as possible. If you want to see me tackle everything up to chapter 2, click in the top right corner. Wow, thank you guys so much. To be honest, I wasn't sure if my video would be met to much reception, if any at all. But you guys were so nice and left so many supportive and helpful comments, it absolutely meant the world to me. It's given me a reason to make more of these and pursue this YouTube hobby that I've been sitting on for the better part of a decade. So let's keep the train rolling, shall we? Welcome to Chapter 3. Is what I was going to say to start off this video. However, I have a few things to clear up. If you just want to see Chapter 3, skip ahead to this timestamp. When my original video went live, I posted it in the Celeste game subreddit, not thinking much of it. The next day, I woke up with a comment from someone in the Celeste community. See, in the last video, I said I was interested in the more untouched aspects of this challenge. Turns out that wasn't the best wording. This is far from an untouched challenge. There's an entire community dedicated to researching this stuff. They have a Discord server that I'll link in the description, discussions about optimizing every level in the game, and more up-to-date tasks. They've been doing this for at least 4 years, and there's a whole wealth of information that I never knew existed. This is absolutely huge, as I know that I'm not doing this alone anymore. There's a whole group of people who are much more experienced, willing to help. You'll be seeing the work of these people pop up a few times throughout this video. However, there were some mistakes I made in the last episode that these people pointed out to me, and I'd like to address them. For example, this is not a spike jump, and it doesn't work the way that I thought it did. See, I thought Madeline's hitbox for jumping was her legs, while her climbing hitbox was her arms. And I was on the right track, but that's not entirely true. See, Madeline has 2 main hitboxes. One for tile collision, so for example floors, ceilings, walls, and one for entity collision. So for example, spikes. These are sometimes called the hitbox and the hurtbox. And the hitbox actually extends 2 pixels further down than the hurtbox does. So when we jump off here, we're hitting the wall with our hitbox, which tells us that we've touched a wall. But our hurtbox that tells us that there's a spike there doesn't register on that specific part of Madeline. So it's less like this, and more like this. So what's actually a spike jump? Well, it's this thing right here. Remember how I said that there was another hitbox that you could jump off of? Yeah, that isn't really how it works. Turns out it's due to basic spike collision. You see, spikes don't actually hit you if you're moving the direction that they're facing. This is likely because of all the one-ways in the game. Basically, when we jump off the corner here, we're not hitting some secret spike wall hitbox. We're hitting the wall itself, spikes and all. But the speed that we have and the direction that we're going means that we can bypass them completely. Now, there's one more thing I'd like to revisit in this video. Remember how I used assist mode to slow down this jump? Yeah, turns out that's a bad idea, and not for the reason you might think. See, when slowing down Celeste, it alters the physics engine in subtle ways. Notice how the Madeline in front, the one that has assist mode on, is slightly further ahead, even though they started jumping at the exact same position. This makes some jumps that would be otherwise impossible, possible, and the other way around. One of the intentions of this run is that it's beatable in the base game without any modifications. And while this jump is possible without slowdown, I don't want to get into the habit of using it over every hard trick in the run, so from here on out, any and all assists and variations are banned. Now there are some more things I've been informed of, including a couple dash saves in Chapter 2. But this discovery of all these extra task tricks leaves me in an interesting spot. See, this is a personal challenge. The premise is how many dashes I can beat Celeste in, not necessarily the true minimum. In a way, all my work has already been done before, and I doubt that I can bring much more to the table. So I feel like I have 2 options. I could forgo any help at all and try to play the run as a truly personal challenge, or I could follow what's already been found and try to replicate as many tricks as I can. The first one seems painfully arrogant, but the second one seems painfully boring. So many of these true optimizations are tasks only, and how interesting would the video be if half of it was me ignoring tricks because they're just too hard or basically impossible? So rather than go all the way to either extreme, I have a compromise. I'm going to continue as normal, finding every save I can mostly on my own, and doing research where I feel like it's important. However, at the end of this series, whenever that may be, I plan to do a revisited episode. I go through every previous chapter with any new discoveries that I've made, That way I keep the videos more personal and self-discovery based, like the challenge was always intended to be, while still acknowledging any optimizations I didn't know about. I really hope you understand where I'm coming from with all this. Feel free to add anything I've missed or any suggestions for certain sections in the comments below, however, as it'll be a big help. Anyway, thank you for listening to all of that. Now that I've said it, I hopefully won't have to say it again. Okay, for real this time? The premise of Chapter 3 is that we're taking a visit for an old, rundown hotel run by the ghost of Mr. Oshiro. We help him clean up the place, try to talk him into letting the place go, and get chased down by an angry, battle-inified version of him. Chapter 2 had some finicky jumps, and its main mechanic forced a lot of dashes out of us. But a lot of people consider this place to be the first real level in the game. So how will we be put to the test? Let's find out. We start out pretty harmless, with no real reason to dash for a while, but we do meet these guys. I tried to figure out their name, but the fandom wiki calls them Sludge. That is really funny, so from now on they're called Sludge. It might look like this jump needs some finicky spike trickery, but we can just jump to get to the other wall. We meet our anxious ghostly friend, jump across some boxes, and hit our first roadblock. There's no way to jump to this platform here, and we can't simply wall jump to anywhere nearby. So we have no choice but to either dash and make a leap for it, or the objectively cooler method. On the next screen we need a very precise jump. If you step to the left of this platform, start running just as the platform hits the metal pole of the slab, and then jump, you can just about grab onto the inner ledge and make your way up. There's a fun little jump in the key room to grab onto this ledge, and then you can just drop down to reach and unlock the door. The next room has another elevator jump. You'll want to get used to the timing of these. There's a decent few we'll be making to skip upwards dashes and reach valuable wall jumping spots. The next room can be kinda awkward, but I found a good lineup. Get up to this wall as soon as you can, then when the sludge turns to move down and the platform is about to reach the leftmost point, drop and kick off this part of the wall right here, and you should get it most of the time. But the biggest point of concern so far is this room right here. First, you find that little corner of the wall that you can jump off of, since these sludges are similar to spikes, hitboxes and all. Then you do a backwards wall jump as it doesn't waste any stamina. Then you jump again and repeat this 2 more times. That's 6 precise wall jumps in a row on a tight stamina bar, all while getting the timing to avoid these adorable little circles from hell. It's an incredibly difficult screen, but god does it feel good to pull off. Feels like you're doing some intricate hotel dance. Hang on a second. Again, it's the Q coin room. Specifically, this coin right here. Once we get low enough to grab it, it seems like we can't hit the spring. And this is where the dashless community comes in, as I found out from them that if you hit the coin at a certain diagonal angle, you'll find a sweet spot where you grab the edge of the coin just as you hit the spring. Don't think about the hitbox too hard, I don't know how it works either. Right after that, we have this jump right here. It looks like it should be possible, right? After all, just jump from the wall and... just jump from the wall and... You know, it's funny, all you have to do is jump from it. Here's the thing. This is possible through the task, but it's super tricky and another one of those barely human situations. However, I was able to save one dash by making a precise jump across the sludges here. Maybe this is one to revisit. And so, we finally catch up with Mr. Oshiro, and the place is a huge mess. This is actually super exciting, because this is one of the few times in the game where we have a split path. Depending on the room you go to, and which books you clear first, different parts of the level geometry get taken away. This drastically changes how many dashes you need depending on the order you take. For example, this jump here is usually a no-brainer, but if we clear the room with the purple blocks first, we have to substitute this platform with a dash. Overall, I found the best route to be top, bottom, middle. There are 2 jumps in the top section that are impossible to do if you do either of the other rooms first, and the other 2 are all possible with or without any number of platforms. Heck, they only change the difficulty in one part in any notable way, and even then it's just a few wall jumps. There are, however, 2 more rooms I want to talk about. The first is this jump in the top path. It looks like you just might be able to jump over to this wall, but there's seemingly no way to it. And try as you might, this wall of sludge is unclearable too. It looks like we need 2 dashes. But what if we combine the 2? Disclaimer, the following trick is stupidly precise and I did not pull it off. If you'd like to see footage of Richcon and GMM performing this trick, all credits go to her for doing this for me. Thank you. So, wall physics are weird. When you grab a wall, it divides the vertical speed by 5. This is usually enough to keep Madeline on the wall. However, if you fall fast enough and grab the wall at just the right height, there's a single frame where Madeline is considered to be grabbing the wall, but her vertical speed positions her just underneath it. And since you're still considered to be grabbing the wall, you can jump from this position. In this case, we jump a little bit underneath the wall to get a bit more height and distance than usual, so we can line ourselves up with the other side and dash onto it. But I mean, we had to dash to get here anyway, so why does dashing specifically onto this wall help us? When Madeline dashes up against a wall, she can still jump off of said wall. And on top of that, she gets more horizontal and vertical speed than a normal wall jump. So if we press left after dashing and jump at just the right time, we get enough height and distance to clear the sludge wall. Wall bouncing is one of the most well-known tricks in the game, even being used in some of the more advanced levels. So yeah, a couple frame perfect inputs, exploitations of the way the game handles grabbing, and a whole heap of hitbox insanity for one dash save. Excellent. Now, there's two more sections that look like they can save dashes, but it seems like they're just out of reach. For one, this jump requires a precise dash through two sludges and a jump onto this elevator. Using our knowledge of spike hitboxes, we could theoretically jump at either of these corners and get a wall jump in. And we can! But in the middle path, it's too narrow to avoid the left sludge, with a simple release of the directional key not working since, well, we're no longer away from the spikes. Maybe it is possible, but it's pretty precise. And for the bottom path, well, what do you do once you're in the air? So that's an extra dash each way. For now. Add on one more dash to cross this gap, 3 dashes to press each of the switches, and we've made this madhouse a mad home, I guess. We meet back up with Oshiro and climb further into the resort. Not much except for this jump, which is probably the stupidest required dash so far. Look, you just barely can't jump over the sludge. We wall bounce here to save a dash, and there's a tricky little save here. We need to wall bounce off the sludge, but if we try the usual method we get absolutely domed. So we need to start lower on the wall and jump up from there. Position yourself on this pixel to get it every time. 3 more dashes across the pillars later, and we get to this section. Oshiro freaks out while trying to get us to stay. I'm sorry dude, the space is nice, but like, everything's dead. His ensuing breakdown causes the room to be filled with more sludges. He ushers us to follow him, but there's a small problem. A giant wall of toxic trauma slime stands in our way. The idea is that we take the long way around, but these platforms are a pain. There's no way to jump from platform to platform as they are just out of reach for us. This place would be Dash City, if we had to do it. It's time for a new lesson. There are 2 things you need to learn to understand the Jedi mind trickery I just pulled off. Spike hitboxes and crouch dashing. First off, hitboxes. Specifically, the hitboxes of these types of spikes. They're actually the same thing, just with different textures. They're called spinners, despite a distinct lack of spin, and the hitboxes for them actually aren't completely walled up. And when they're placed in their usual grip positions, which they almost always are, the hitboxes line up in such a way that there's a tiny gap. This gap just so happens to be the exact height of Madeline's crouched hurtbox. So if we could somehow get through this gap with enough horizontal speed while crouching, we could skip this entire section and any number of dashes it would take. Enter the demo dash. See, normally if you crouch and dash in the air, you just go down. And if you let go of the crouch button, well, Madeline isn't crouching anymore, is she? However, if you dash forward and release the down key within 4 frames of inputting the button, Madeline will dash forward, but with the crouching hitbox instead. This is known as a demo dash, named after Demo Jameson, who discovered it way back on the 14th of October, 2018. So why is it possible? Well, if you press down and dash at the same time, Madeline will start to crouch. The direction you dash in is actually dependent on what you're pressing on the 5th frame of the dash. Plus, in the air, you don't actually uncrouch when releasing the crouch button, but instead when you're moving down. Since this is a horizontal dash, we're not moving down at all here, so we keep the crouch hitbox until the end of the dash. And with this extra small hitbox, we can hit the gap at a completely straight angle, successfully getting us through to the other side. A good way to line yourself up for this is position this light brown part of Madeline's foot with the middle of these 3 lighter pixels on the wall. Hi, Editing Eve here. Turns out in the most recent version, or at least the PC version, that spot doesn't exist. Like, it's just in an entirely, light section. So, can't really use that lineup, but once you sort of, know where to position yourself, it's pretty easy to just gauge with your eyes. jump up, move forward a tiny amount, and then hit the demo dash right as you hit this part here. If you're playing in more recent versions of Celeste, there's even a demo dash button in the advanced controls menu, so you don't have to worry about this 4-frame window. Side tangent, I love when games do this. When you make something as interactable, malleable, and with so many different moving parts as a video game, especially a platformer, there's going to be things that you probably didn't intend for people to do. So I love when the response isn't to try and patch and fix out these mistakes, but let go of a little bit of control in exchange for innovation and new ways to play the game. Does anyone remember multi-caping? The next screen has a deceptively difficult jump. Make sure to position right at the edge and you should be able to make the gap consistently. Then we have this extra stylish wall jump and one of the most elegant dashless solutions I've ever seen. Position yourself here where Madeline tiptoes right on the edge of the platform. Crouch and jump just as the sludges go to the right. 3 dashes here and we finally catch up to Mr. Oshiro. And he's not in the best shape. I hate to break up this dramatic moment, but it's time for a lesson. The ending chase sequence features a special mechanic, Mr. Oshiro himself. Throughout the chase, he'll charge us and try to slow us down. If he hits us, it's instant death. Unless we can jump on top of his head. Let's quickly go over how to telegraph Mr. Oshiro's attack. There are 3 states to the charge. In the first state, he stays completely still, only being a threat if you're at the very leftmost side of the screen. Eventually, his eyes will shoot a laser, signifying the readying state. In this state, it is already decided where Oshiro is going to go, and is telegraphed by the position of the laser. Then, he charges forward, giving you the chance to either dome or get domed. Then Oshiro will come back and start from the first state. So, how long does it actually take to go from Phase 1 to Phase 2? That is an excellent question. See, I initially thought it was going to be random. After all, I couldn't really tell how many bites it was. Sometimes it was 1, sometimes it was 2, sometimes it would be instant, sometimes it would take forever. However, after talking to some people in the dashless community, I found out there's supposed to be a pattern to it. See, on the first cycle, he's supposed to wait for 1 second, then 2 seconds on the second cycle, 3 seconds on the third cycle, 2 seconds on the fourth cycle, 3 seconds on the fifth cycle, and then it repeats from the beginning. However, I'm playing on the Nintendo Switch, and this does not happen at all. It's seemingly completely random. As much as I've tried, I wasn't able to find a consistent pattern, no matter what I did. During the process of editing, however, Rich Connor GMN gifted me a PC version of Celeste, so I could finally test it out for myself. And on the PC version, he follows this pattern to a T. So if you're playing on the PC, he follows this pattern. But if you're playing on console, or at least the Nintendo Switch, it's probably random, so keep that in mind. This knowledge saves us on the very first screen. Normally, we need to dash over this wall while avoiding Oshihiro's charges, but if we position ourselves on the spring so we're at around this height when he gets ready, we can boink ourselves up and over the sludge entirely. Alright, back to detention. We can use this to grab a few key coins. For this room, I recommend dying. Then, when you respawn, don't start moving until the circling sludge gets to around the cobwebs at the top here. Then, if you make a beeline for the setup, you can get the jump without worrying about it hitting you. The jump here is a bit tricky to gauge. If you try to go under, there just isn't enough time to line up Mr. Oshiro and jump down to where he should be. But I have a theory that if caught at the maximum height, you might just be able to get the perfect strike and graze over the top. But here's the problem. When you're on a spring, and the timing for Oshiro's dash is essentially random, that's a lot harder than you think. Even the task seems to think this isn't doable. So I'm writing this off as a dash for now, but I've got my eye on you. Finally, we have this section. It goes without saying there's a bit of dashing involved here, but how much can we cut it down? Well, as far as I can tell, the answer is 3, and we have one final lesson on our hands. When you dash diagonally into the ground, there's about 11 frames where you can jump and get a ton of speed. This is called a hyper, and it's the basic idea behind a wave dash, arguably the most famous tech in all of Celeste. During this jump window, however, there's a few frames where Madeline's hair glows a bright white. If you jump during this window, you can get your dash back. We don't generally make use of wave dashing in this run since, you know, but if we wave dash right at the edge of this platform, just as the beam appears, we can get super far. If we then dash diagonally upwards 2 more times, we should get enough speed to clear the gap in 3 dashes. Can it be done in less? Maybe. Probably. Time stands to tell us. And with that, we're basically done with everything in the level. Mr. Oshiro calms down, asks us to leave, and that ends off chapter 3. Man, the Shining looks a lot different than I remember. Let's tally up the dashes. Honestly, I'm pretty surprised. Considering it's the first real challenge in Celeste, I was expecting there to be way more spots where we were just forced to dash. Sure, some spots were absolutely ridiculous, and there was almost definitely more to be saved, but overall it wasn't that bad. My favourite part is probably the demo dash. Watching Madeline go straight through solid death goo is one thing, but pulling it off yourself makes you feel like an absolute task robot. So I guess the question is, what next? Well, obviously Chapter 4, but if I keep making chapter after chapter in the style of episodes like this, I could spend months or even years just covering these levels. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind if this is a long haul project, but I'm someone who thrives on variety. I mean, heck, it took me months to finish this video because I'm quite busy with school right now, and honestly, I was starting to get demotivated. Not to mention, I never realized just how much effort it takes to make videos like this. I mean, the last one took about 15 hours total of editing, and this one probably doubled that. Not to mention all the research and the writing, there's a lot that goes into making one of these. There's so much to this game, and it's wonderful that they have all of this, but I'm one person, and I felt a lot of stress to get everything right. So, I think I'm going to take a break from Celeste for now, and branch out to some other stuff. I have a few cool ideas in the works, so maybe some challenge videos, maybe some videos talking about my other interests. We'll wait and see. I'm not gonna lie, the fear of failure is pretty looming, now that I've pulled the plug and started all this thing. And to be honest, I'm a full-time film school student. I'm struggling with living on my own for the first time, and I'm the busiest I have ever been in my entire life. And I really want to have better discipline. But the biggest thing people have told me since I released that last video was to keep going. I've grabbed the attention of a few dozen of you, at the very least. We have the snowball, and I'm gonna do my best to keep it rolling. And over time, it should get bigger and bigger and bigger, and then, well, who knows? It sounds cheesy, but the best way to find out is to hit the subscribe button. I've made a lot of empty promises in my life. Only time will tell us whether this is the same. But I'm telling you right now that I will do my best to make sure you won't regret it. Well, till then, I've been EveCitrus, and I know. Stay Eve. Okay, maybe not. What does that even mean? If you just want to see Chapter 3, feel ski to flip ahead. Let's go. Also, hi, hello. Just quickly want to say, just a little unscripted bit here, but just want to say thank you for 100 subscribers. Wow. Like I didn't even know I had like 50 or so. I just checked now, and it's like 112 or something. Like I know, like in general YouTube standards, that's like supposedly nothing, but like, jeez Louise, that's 112 people. Like, you put all that in a room, that's absolutely insane. I am definitely, I kind of want to do something for it, but also I have no clue what I'd do. So for now I'm just going to say thank you so much, seriously. I'm going to do my best to keep doing these videos because people like them, and I've been very lazy about it. I've been quite lazy. But yeah, thank you. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a great rest of your day. That's all.